Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a source collection you shared with us, and it's on one of the most remarkable scriptures on divine security.
That's right.
We're going to try and move beyond seeing Psalm 91 as just a comforting poem, something you recite when you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
We're treating it today as more of a detailed architectural blueprint, a map, really.
I like that analogy, a map. Because the material we're guiding this discussion with, which comes from the You Need Faith in Jesus team, it really emphasizes this idea.
What's the idea?
That this text is like a contract of security. It very clearly specifies the essential condition we have to meet.
The environment we need to create for ourselves.
Exactly. And then it provides this exhaustive list of God's promises that just flow from meeting that one condition.
So our mission today is to unpack that blueprint. We want to understand the mechanism behind it all.
Right.
Because if you only focus on the benefits, the promises, without getting a handle on the prerequisites, you kind of miss the whole point of the text.
You absolutely do. The question becomes, what does it functionally mean to make God your lifelong fortress?
It's not just a nice phrase.
Not at all. It requires a detailed, methodical approach. And for our conversation, we're using the King James Version text.
The KJV.
Yes, because it carries, an immense weight and precision, and we're really going to be extracting as much as we can from the study provided.
All right, let's start at the very beginning then. The threshold, the first verse, which really establishes the ultimate requirement for all of this security.
Okay. The psalm kicks off with this incredibly powerful declaration. It's Psalm 91, verse 1 from the King James Version.
What does it say?
He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty.
He that dwelleth. That word dwelleth, it just changes everything, doesn't it?
It's the key.
Because the source commentary is so clear on this. The secret place isn't a physical bomb shelter.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual location. It's about a deep, a sustained intimacy with God.
And that distinction is just vital.
It is. We have to really draw a line between dwelling and, say, visiting.
Okay, break that down.
Well, dwelling implies continuity. It means you establish that relationship as your home, your constant default environment.
As opposed to just running there in an emergency.
Precisely. If you only run to God when the crisis hits, the market crashes, or you get a bad diagnosis, you're a visitor. You're just looking for an emergency shelter.
But the premise isn't for the visitor.
No. The promise is reserved for the dweller, the one whose life is already centered there, who has made it their spiritual address, moment by moment.
I think this is where, the skeptical part of a learner's mind kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
If dwelling means this continual, unbroken fellowship and constant attention, doesn't that set an impossibly high standard, like almost monastic?
That's a great question.
I mean, does one moment of distraction or one day where I just don't feel close, does that negate the whole promise?
And that's the tension, isn't it, between the promise and our own human frailty. But the emphasis in the text isn't on a flawless performance. It's about choice and direction.
Okay.
Dwelling means the intention of your heart is fixed there. It's the difference between setting your primary life goal as seeking God versus seeking comfort.
So protection isn't based on my perfect consistency?
No. It's based on God's consistent character toward those who choose Him as their home. The security is inherent to the location you've chosen, even if you, wander a little bit within that space sometimes.
That reframes it beautifully. So it's more about cultivating habits that remind us where home is.
Yes.
So practically speaking, for someone listening today, what are some, modern equivalents of cultivating that dwelling?
It goes way beyond just a quick prayer in the morning.
Right.
It's the intentional spiritual discipline of silence and solitude, where you deliberately detach from all the noise of the external world.
A digital detox, maybe?
That's a perfect modern example.
Yeah.
A digital detox, an intentional pause before you react to something. It's setting aside time not just to ask God for things, but just to be with Him.
So you're making your spiritual life the central, immovable reality.
Yes. Above finances, above your reputation, above your circumstances, that's dwelling.
And the power of this protector is established right away in that verse, through the names that are used. We have the Most High and the Almighty.
Analyzing these names is absolutely essential. When the text uses the Most High, which in Hebrew is El Elyon, it signifies supreme authority. Sovereignty.
In that ancient culture, what would that have meant?
Invoking El Elyon meant acknowledging the God who is above all other gods, all kings, all cosmic forces. There is no higher authority.
So it's about jurisdictional control.
Exactly. When you dwell under El Elyon, you are under the highest conceivable authority.
Yeah.
Any lower power, whether it's, spiritual or governmental, has to bow to his decree concerning your life.
It's like saying, no matter what storm you're facing, the ultimate weather report comes from El Elyon.
Perfect. Nothing is outside his domain. And then you pair that supreme authority with the Almighty, or El Shaddai.
And El Shaddai it's often translated God Almighty, but there's a nuance there, isn't there?
A huge one. Historically, El Shaddai is linked to concepts of nourishing, sustaining power, all-sufficient provision and protection.
So if El Elyon is the title of the king,
Then El Shaddai is the description of his infinite resources and strength. He doesn't just have the authority, he has the complete, overwhelming might to back up every single one of his promises.
so dwelling under the shadow of El Shaddai means you're secured by omnipotence and sustained by infinite provision.
That's it. And the immediate result of dwelling there is this promise to abide under the shadow.
And that imagery, it connects all that immense authority with this immediate, tender intimacy.
It does. The source material from the You Need Faith in Jesus team really highlights this twofold nature of the shadow.
Okay.
On one hand, it's comforting protection, like finding shade from a burning desert sun. It's relief, it's sanctuary.
But on the other hand,
On the other hand, for you to be in the shadow of something, you have to be profoundly close to it.
right, you can't be in a shadow from across the street.
Exactly. This isn't long-distance defense. It's not automated security. This is intimate, immediate, overwhelming nearness. A presence so close, you feel its cool protection constantly.
And this whole idea of hidden security, it's not unique to Psalm 91. It pops up elsewhere.
It does. Psalm 27, verse 5, reinforces this same concept, this idea that security is found in proximity to God.
Let's hear it.
It says, "For in the time of trouble he shall hide me in his pavilion. In the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me. He shall set me up upon a rock." That's Psalm 27, verse 5, KJV.
The imagery is so consistent. A pavilion, a tabernacle, a secret place.
All pointing to the same truth. The safest place is always the most intimate place, right next to the divine.
And the source commentary just brings it all home, saying the practical call is to cultivate that daily, moment-by-moment relationship.
Right. Recognizing that your true security isn't in your bank account or your health, but entirely in your nearness to El Shaddai.
So that's verse 1, the condition. But verse 2 immediately demands a response.
An active response. It shifts from that third-person general statement, he that dwelleth, to the psalmist's personal choice. It's a model for us.
And that verse is?
Psalm 91, verse 2 in the KJV. "I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in him will I trust."
That opening phrase, I will say, it's so important. It's not I will think or I will feel.
It's an external, conscious, verbal act of faith.
Right. It's not enough to just believe God exists or that he protects other people. You have to actively declare him as yours.
The study that's guiding us really emphasizes this. It's a fundamental part of active faith. It demands that personal affirmation.
He is my refuge, my fortress, my God.
It transforms this ancient theological truth into a personal commitment that anchors you.
And the dual language he uses there, refuge and fortress, that provides such a complete picture of security.
It does. A refuge is immediate. It's what you run to in a sudden downpour. It gives you quick safety in a crisis.
But a fortress.
A fortress is long-term. It's a fortified, strategic, impenetrable structure. It's built for a sustained siege.
So when we declare God as both, we're saying he's our safe haven in a moment of panic and the solid foundation for our entire life strategy.
He handles the quick emergency and the long, drawn-out battle.
And it all hinges on that final phrase, in him will I trust.
And that trust, as the commentary stresses, it's not passive resignation. It's an active choice, a decision to place your full, informed confidence in God's character.
In El Elyon and El Shaddai.
Exactly. In his character and in his unwavering promises.
You know, this sounds exactly like the mechanism described in Proverbs.
It's a perfect parallel. Proverbs 18, verse 10.
Let's hear that one.
"The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous runneth into it and is safe."
You have to run. The security is there, the tower is built, but the action of running into it, that's the conditional step.
It is. So for you, when those modern anxieties start to rise up,
Market volatility, health scares, relationship problems.
all of it, when they begin to overwhelm, the active step is to intentionally articulate your trust. You shift the battlefield from the problem's power to the protector's character.
You declare, "The Lord is my fortress, I will trust in him."
You model the resilience that's taught in this source material.
Okay, so the foundation is laid. We have dwelling and declaring. Now the psalm moves right into the specifics of the promises.
Yes, and it shows the protection covers both the hidden, sneaky threats and the big, overwhelming dangers.
Verse 3 details this, right?
It does. Psalm 91 verse 3 says, "Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence."
The snare of the fowler. That's such a classic biblical metaphor for a hidden trap.
It is. A fowler is a bird catcher. He's subtle. He uses camouflage and deception. He doesn't attack openly.
So this represents what? The deceptive schemes of the enemy.
Yes, the spiritual enemy, the devil, or just the unforeseen dangers and plots we run into in daily life.
What are some modern-day snares?
Oh, misinformation campaigns, the subtle erosion of moral boundaries, financial scams that look too good to be true. They're all designed to entangle you before you even realize you've stepped in a trap.
So God protects us from the planned unseen attacks. But then the verse immediately pivots to the opposite extreme.
It does. To the noisome pestilence.
Which is?
It's defined as a deadly, destructive plague or infectious disease. It's overwhelming, it's visible, and it's devastating.
So the pairing is deliberate.
Completely deliberate. It showcases comprehensive coverage. God protects you from the subtle plot that ensnares your mind and the sweeping sickness that threatens your body, the sneaky danger, and the public disaster.
That really is a complete package. But what's so fascinating is how the imagery changes in the very next verse. It moves from combat and siege to something really tender.
Verse 4 is this beautiful synthesis of intimacy and strength.
It says,
Psalm 91, verse 4, KJV. "He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler."
it's like God starts out as a gentle mother hen and then immediately hands you a tactical combat vest.
Chuckles. That's a great way to put it. The maternal bird imagery, the feathers and wings, it signifies this gentle, loving, personal, and profoundly near protection.
It emphasizes our vulnerability and God's protective care.
It speaks of deep tenderness. You're so close that you are physically covered by the protector. And this isn't just an Old Testament idea.
Right, Jesus uses this exact imagery.
He does. In Matthew 23, verse 37, he's lamenting over Jerusalem, wishing to provide that same shelter.
What did he say?
He says, "How often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, and ye would not." It shows God's continuous yearning heart to offer this intimate shelter.
But then, right after the feathers, the psalm gives us military hardware. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler.
The intimacy leads to invincibility. This is the spiritual armor.
And what is that armor made of?
God's truth. That means the absolute reliability of his unchanging character, the integrity of his nature, and the unwavering certainty of his word and promises. That truth is the armor for the one nestled under his wings.
And the distinction between a shield and a buckler, that's a detail I think a lot of people miss.
It is. The shield was the large overall body defense. It was for stopping a massive assault or broad attack.
And the buckler?
The buckler was smaller, lighter. It was for specialized, agile, defense-deflecting, specific, directed blows aimed at a vital area.
So God's truth provides both broad protection and customized defense against targeted, specific attacks on our faith.
That's it. So the practical application here, as the You Need Faith in Jesus team commentary really drives home, is that our safety isn't based on our own cleverness or preparedness.
It's not about us being smart enough to avoid the traps.
No. Our complete defense is found in nestling close to God and gripping the truth of his word as our full, uncompromising armor against all dangers, seen and unseen.
Okay, so the psalm keeps going, systematically dismantling every angle of human fear. Now it covers the dimension of time.
Yes, these next two verses basically catalog every form of anxiety. It's Psalm 91, verses 5 and 6.
Go ahead.
"Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday."
Wow, that is an exhaustive list. It's basically a 247 security guarantee.
Against both the subtle and the obvious.
Let's break down the night threats first. The terror by night.
That covers everything that preys on our imagination when we're most vulnerable. Anxieties, nightmares, that existential dread.
And actual physical dangers that happen in the dark.
Right. The night often magnifies fear because our senses are dulled and we feel like we've lost control.
And then the pestilence that walketh in darkness.
That speaks to the unseen dangers. a contagious illness you can't see, or the unknown source of trouble that operates outside of human sight, the danger you can't diagnose.
Okay, moving into the daylight. We get the arrow that flieth by day.
These are the direct observable attacks. They're often swift and sudden.
So open confrontation.
Exactly. Verbal assaults, character assassinations, physical threats, public opposition. They're impossible to ignore because they're aimed right at you and everyone can see it.
And finally, the ultimate public catastrophe.
Yeah.
The destruction that wasteth at noonday.
This refers to those sudden public calamities that strike when we're at our peak activity and exposure.
Like the collapse of an institution or a natural disaster.
A crisis that erupts in the middle of a busy workday. The destruction is visible, widespread, and strikes without warning.
What I find so empowering here is the wording. Thou shalt not be afraid.
Yes.
It's not a guarantee that there won't be problems. The arrows still fly, the pestilence still walks.
But it's a promise of an overriding peace and a divine presence in the midst of that hardship.
That is the core distinction, isn't it?
It is. It's the peace of God acting as a shield for your mind and spirit. You recognize that even if you encounter these things, your response doesn't have to be fear or panic. Your safety is relational, not circumstantial.
This connects directly to what the New Testament teaches about peace.
Absolutely. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7 is a powerful mandate against anxiety. It says, "For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind."
A sound mind, that clarity of thought is only possible when your trust is anchored in this kind of security.
Exactly. So for you, our listener, who is just bombarded 247 by news that amplifies every worst-case scenario.
Threats of viruses, war, societal division.
All of it. The practical action is to recognize that your peace flows from the constant presence of the protector, El Shaddai, not the occasional absence of problems.
Okay, the psalm now escalates the threat level even higher, to catastrophic, widespread calamity.
It does. And it assures the dweller that their security holds even in the face of mass destruction. Verse 7 uses this intense hyperbole to convey the magnitude of it all.
And that verse is,
Psalm 91, verse 7. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee.
I mean, that imagery is just stunning. It's a picture of being in the absolute epicenter of devastation.
Surrounded by massive, widespread fallout.
1,000 on your left, 10,000 on your right. And yet the calamity itself can't breach your protective boundary.
It's not just a promise of deliverance from minor setbacks. This is a promise of immunity from widespread judgment or disaster that overtakes everyone else.
It speaks to God's ability to draw a spiritual and physical line in the sand.
It does. It separates those who dwell in the secret place from the general destructive consequences that overtake those who reject his authority.
And this preservation leads to a specific outcome in the next verse.
Yes, verse 8. It deals with the inevitable outcome for those who choose not to abide in that fortress. It says, "Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked."
Now, that verse has to be understood carefully.
Very carefully. The source commentary clarifies that beholding the reward of the wicked isn't an instruction to take some kind of smug, self-righteous pleasure in others' suffering.
So what is it about?
It's about divine confirmation and validation. You are witnessing that God is ultimately faithful and just. You see the necessary consequences of choices made outside the covenant.
And that confirms the wisdom and reliability of your own protector. It validates your choice to dwell in that secret place.
It demonstrates that there is a fundamental difference in the ultimate outcome. And the classic historical illustration for this, used by the You Need Faith in Jesus team, is the Exodus narrative.
The final plague in Egypt.
The perfect picture. Judgment was widespread, it devastated the whole land, but protection was absolute for those who met the condition.
Applying the blood and staying in their homes.
Right. And we see this described in Exodus chapter 12, verse 23.
What does it say?
"For the Lord will pass through to smite the Egyptians. And when he seeth the blood upon the lintel and on the two side posts, the Lord will pass over the door and will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your houses to smite you."
The Israelites were right in the middle of the calamity. They saw the destruction.
But the destroyer was literally barred from entering their dwelling. They beheld the judgment, but the protection of the covenant ensured it didn't come near them.
The practical application here is just profound hope.
It is. Even though we live in a world full of systemic, catastrophic troubles, political, environmental, medical, steady, we can have absolute confidence that Elyon is fully capable of preserving his own.
And that his ultimate justice will prevail.
Exactly.
So now, the psalmist is so insistent on this core condition that he brings us full circle. He repeats the prerequisite before giving more promises.
Yes, this repetition is like a structural hinge. It reinforces that everything promised is tied directly to that initial commitment.
And those verses are
Psalm 91, verses 9 and 10. Because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling.
the word because just grounds the entire security system. All the benefits flow from this one choice, making the Lord our habitation.
It's the definitive restatement of verse 1. Where do you establish your spiritual home? You have to move beyond seeing God as a temporary helper and embrace him as your constant environment.
And this is the foundational principle of intimacy that the study material keeps highlighting.
It is. And then we get that incredible promise in verse 10. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling.
Okay, we have to pause here. This is where the listener's skepticism is going to be at an all-time high.
I'm sure.
If this promise is so absolute, why do faithful dwelling believers, people who genuinely trust the God, still face illness, job loss, betrayal, even death?
That's the essential tension we have to reconcile. And the source commentary gives us the theological depth we need here.
So how do we understand it?
We have to understand the biblical context of evil in this promise. It does not promise physical immunity from living in a fallen world.
If it did, then the Apostle Paul wouldn't have had his thorn in the flesh.
Exactly. Nor would the early church have faced persecution. So if the plague can still come near the physical dwelling, what is the nature of the protection?
That's the question.
The protection is ultimately one of spiritual integrity and eternal purpose. No evil means no evil will befall them in the ultimate separation sense.
So no trial, no sickness, no crisis can separate the dweller from God's love or thwart his divine purpose for their life.
That's it. It shifts the entire definition of tragedy. A physical illness may be a trial, but it cannot be an ultimate disaster that overcomes God's love or his plan. It has to submit to his sovereign intention.
And this is where we can connect it to the New Testament's view of suffering.
Absolutely. We tie Psalm 91's promise of ultimate security directly to Romans chapter 8, verse 28.
Which outlines that sovereign turnaround.
Right. And we know that all things work together for good, to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose.
That is the ultimate deliverance.
Because we've made the Lord our habitation, the very things intended for our harm, the evil, the plague, are fundamentally restricted in their power. God takes them and works them together for a good that is higher and more enduring than just our temporary comfort.
So the practical action when you're facing an unavoidable trial is to look at it through the lens of ultimate purpose.
Yes. If your habitation is the Lord, you trust that the trial cannot achieve ultimate victory over you, and that God is already weaving it into his sovereign beneficial plan. The safety is in the relationship.
Okay, now we get into the administrative details of this protection. The psalm reveals one of the most astonishing promises: the deployment of spiritual forces on our behalf.
This defines one of the methods God uses to execute his defense. It's Psalm 91, verses 11 and 12.
What do they say?
For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone.
This isn't just some vague idea of good luck. This is God issuing a charge, a specific official military order to his angels to protect us.
It speaks to the highly organized nature of God's defense system. These beings are commissioned specifically to keep thee in all thy ways.
Which means the protection is integrated into the trajectory of your life.
Yes, it covers you as you walk in the path God has ordained for you. And the detail is incredible.
It is. Protection so precise it prevents even small stumbles, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone.
It implies this active, moment-by-moment divine guardianship.
Yeah.
However, these specific verses became famously misused in a crucial spiritual confrontation.
Right. This is the temptation of Jesus.
Exactly. The source material highlights this as a critical warning. Satan knew these verses perfectly and tried to turn them into a spiritual loophole.
He challenged Jesus to throw himself off the temple.
He did. It's recorded in Luke chapter 4, verses 9 through 11. Satan argues, If thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down from hence. For it is written, He shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee. And in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone.
He weaponized Scripture to encourage recklessness. But Jesus' response draws a clear boundary.
A definitive corrective. Jesus replied, It is said, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. That's from Luke 4, verse 12. And this is a non-negotiable lesson for us today.
The promises are to be trusted, but not tested.
Exactly. But wait, how do we draw that line?
That's what I was going to ask. If I'm walking down the street and I slip, that's angelic protection. But if I decide to walk across a dangerous construction site to save time, am I tempting God? What's the difference between trusting and presuming?
The line is drawn at obedience and necessity. Protection is promised as we walk in all thy ways, the paths God has ordained for us, which align with wisdom and righteousness.
Jumping off a temple was not an ordained way.
Not at all. It was a self-generated, unnecessary, high-risk demonstration. Presumption involves deliberately placing yourself in harm's way, ignoring wisdom, and then expecting a miracle to bail you out of your own foolishness.
So we rely on the promise when the unavoidable storm finds us?
But we don't actively invite the storm just to see if the promise holds up. Protection is for a life of obedient dwelling, not a license for reckless stunts.
Okay. Now we hit verse 13, and this signals a radical shift. We move from being passively protected from the enemy to having active, offensive dominion over them.
Verse 13 is this powerful declaration of spiritual authority. It says, "Thou shalt tread upon the lion and adder, the young lion and the dragon shalt thou trample under feet."
This is no longer just defensive. This is active spiritual conquest.
The dweller is granted authority to walk right over creatures that symbolize the most fierce, terrifying, and insidious spiritual enemies imaginable.
And the source material interprets these four creatures as specific hostile powers. Let's break them down. First, the lion.
The lion represents the powerful, roaring, overtly aggressive enemy. The obvious oppression, the fierce attack that's designed to terrify you into paralysis.
Okay, then the adder.
The adder, or venomous snake, symbolizes the sneaky, poisonous, subtle foe. This is the hidden maliciousness, spiritual lies, doctrinal deception, the schemes designed to inject destructive poison into your faith.
And finally, the young lion and the dragon.
The dragon, especially in the Bible, symbolizes monstrous, terrifying power. It represents the ultimate satanic forces and concentrated evil. And the promise is profound. You don't just avoid these powers. You have the right to tread upon them and trample them under feet.
It's a definitive picture of total victory in spiritual warfare.
And this Old Testament promise finds its powerful fulfillment and confirmation in the New Testament.
Specifically in Luke chapter 10, verse 19.
Yes, this is the definitive confirmation of this spiritual dominion today. Jesus says, "Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you."
Overall, the power of the enemy.
That confirms it. The victory promised in Psalm 91 is entirely about the spiritual authority the believer holds in Jesus Christ over demonic and evil forces.
So the practical application is to recognize and exercise that authority.
When we're dwelling in fellowship with God, we don't need to cower or retreat. We are empowered to stand firm, use that spiritual armor of truth, and actively overcome the enemy's attacks.
And now we reach the climax of the psalm. The narrator fades out, and God himself steps in to confirm and ratify everything.
This validation, delivered in the first person, is the ultimate assurance. God begins by explaining the two foundational prerequisites for all this protection. It's in verse 14.
What does he say?
"Because he hath set his love upon me, therefore will I deliver him. I will set him on high, because he hath known my name."
He's explicitly stating the why behind the what. And the first reason is affection. Because he hath set his love upon me.
This confirms that the entire contract is fundamentally relational, not transactional. The core requirement is a deep, personal, loving relationship with the protector.
It's not based on duty or fear.
No, it's love and commitment. And the second foundation is just as essential, because he have known my name.
Which, as we discussed with El Elyon and El Shaddai, is way more than just intellectual knowledge.
So much more. To know the name means to know God's character, his power, his history of faithfulness, and his heart through deep, personal, transformative experience.
It's the difference between hearing a description of a fortress and having lived inside its walls for years.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
And because of this loving, intimate, experiential knowledge, God then confirms everything with a sevenfold list of explicit, definitive promises.
Delivered by his own voice in the final two verses.
Yeah, Psalm 91, verses 15 and 16. "He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life will I satisfy him and show him my salvation."
Okay, let's break down that sevenfold promise as the You Need Faith in Jesus team commentary does.
Number 1, he shall call upon me, and I will answer him. This is the guarantee of answered prayer. The phone line is always open and always answered.
Our communication is recognized and validated by the supreme authority. What's number 2?
I will be with him in trouble. This might be the most comforting promise in the entire list. God doesn't promise we'll avoid trouble.
He promises his personal presence in the trouble.
He's not watching from a distance. He's walking through the trial with you. Number 3, I will deliver him, the overarching promise of rescue.
And number 4, I will honor him.
This speaks to the restoration of dignity and reputation. When trials or attacks have slandered the believer, God promises not just rescue, but a public restoration of honor.
What's next?
Number 5, I will set him on high. This is both protection, lifting him above the enemy's attacks, and exaltation, placing the believer in a position of spiritual advantage.
Number 6, with long life will I satisfy him.
And while this can mean a full span of years, the ultimate fulfillment is the fullness of life and spiritual satisfaction that only God can provide, regardless of the physical years. It's a life well lived.
And finally, number 7, which ties it all together, the temporal and the eternal,
I will show him my salvation,
which is the greatest deliverance of all.
the ultimate one. Salvation from the power of sin and the finality of death, found fully in Jesus Christ. All the other protections, from arrows, from pestilence, they all point to this final glorious rescue.
And this ultimate knowledge of God is exactly what Jesus defined as eternal life in John chapter 17, verse 3.
Yes, and this is life eternal, that they might know thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom thou hast sent.
So the practical application of this grand finale is recognizing that every single one of these amazing promises,
Protection, victory, honor, eternal life.
all of it flows from the heart's choice to set its love upon God and to seek to know him personally.
Intimacy is the ultimate security protocol.
This has been an incredibly detailed and challenging exploration of Psalm 91. We've really moved from seeing it as just poetry to recognizing it as a contract of security.
And the key, which the analysis from the You Need Faith in Jesus team drove home, is that the protection is conditional. It's guaranteed for the dweller, the one who intentionally makes God their permanent habitation.
The choice defines the outcome. It grounds our security not in our circumstances, but in the character of Elion's supreme authority and El Shai all-sufficient power.
And crucially, we address that tension between the promise and reality, understanding that no evil means no ultimate evil can thwart God's purpose in your life, even if you face temporal suffering.
And that understanding transforms fear from a spirit that controls us into a defeated power we have authority to tread on.
The whole psalm is a call to intentionality. Intentional dwelling, intentional declaration, intentional recognition of our spiritual authority.
So, as you move forward this week, here's the provocative thought we want to leave you with. It builds on God's guarantee that protection is tied to knowing his name, knowing his character.
Since every promise flows from that experiential knowledge.
What specific attribute of God do you need to actively internalize and declare as your personal fortress to meet the specific challenge you're facing right now?
If you're overwhelmed by uncertainty, maybe you need to focus on him as the God of order and wisdom. If you're struggling with feeling inadequate, focus on him as El Shaddai, the God of all sufficiency.
Find that specific facet of his character, study the truth of it, and make that truth your declared habitation.
Because ultimate security flows directly from profound intimacy.
We are grateful to the You Need Faith in Jesus team for compiling the insightful source material that guided this comprehensive deep dive. Until next time, keep dwelling in the secret place.
And keep seeking knowledge.